everyone, and thanks for joining us for part 1 of the Tamiya TA08 Pro touring car online build. Before we dive into the build, we're going to go over a few things to make sure you have everything you need to get started. First, let's talk about the tools. We highly suggest a quality set of tools to make for a great building experience. Those tools would include a 1.5mm, 2.0mm, and 2.5mm hex drivers. The kit comes with a 4-way Tamiya wrench, which is fine, but we prefer a much better option when it comes to our 5.5 and 7.0mm nut drivers. You'll also want a hobby knife with a sharp blade, a 4mm turnbuckle wrench, a pair of sharp scissors, and a set of shock pliers for building the shocks. A set of needle nose and standard pliers are also suggested. While not necessary, I do suggest some sort of powered driver. I love using my Makita driver with a 2.0 and 2.5mm bits for installing the longer screws. A shock stand is suggested during the shock build stage, as are some towels or rags for cleaning up. Finally, we suggest some sort of parts tray to keep all the little nuts and bolts organized during the build. I would also suggest a quick run through of the manual to get yourself acquainted with how the build goes. There's even a small tuning section in the back of the manual to help you dial in your 08 Pro to different track conditions. Alright everyone, let's get cracking on the build. Install these screws from the top of the arm, leaving approximately 3.5mm sticking out of the bottom. This is the starting setting for the front droop on the TA08. After installing the pivot balls, I like to use my 2.0mm driver to wiggle them around a bit to make sure they are completely seated. Make sure the 3x8mm set screws also stick out approximately 3.5mm. Pay close attention to how these arm mounts install. The XA should be facing out. Note the direction of the suspension arms during this step. Do not over-tighten these screws. Doing so could cause a bind in the suspension. At this point, you want to make sure the suspension arms swing freely. If not, give them a light tap, as shown, to help seat the plastic pieces. The rear suspension arms are universal, meaning they can be used on the left or right side of the car. When installing the droop screws, pay attention that you build a left and right version, leaving approximately 1.8mm of the screw sticking out of the bottom. Note that these lower shock mounts will attach to what is now the top of each arm. Leave approximately 4mm of this set screw sticking out of the arm. These little plastic pills are used to change suspension geometry. Make sure you are using the N2 pill with the mounting hole to the outside of the chassis. Add a touch of grease to these screws to help them thread into the plastic arm mount. Using the same technique as the front, check to make sure the rear arms swing freely. A light tap on these as well should help seat the plastic pieces. When installing, make sure the notch in the center of the turnbuckle is to the left side of the car. This makes making adjustments standardized throughout the entire vehicle. And that wraps up part 1 of the Tamiya TA08 Pro online build. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see more builds like this, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Thanks for watching.